Joint Force Command Norfolk, NATO's only operational command in North America, ensuring the security of the transatlantic link between the NATO alliance countries, pledging to defend NATO's allies from Florida to Finnmark, from seabed to space. As NATO representatives gather in Washington, D.C. for the summit celebrating 75 years of the alliance, we're speaking to Vice-Admiral Douglas Perry, commander of the Joint Force Command in Norfolk.
I command both Joint Force Command Norfolk, a NATO regional command. I'm also the commander of the United States Second Fleet and the director of the Combined Joint Operations from the Sea Center of Excellence. And my role here, that three-hatted command, is to conduct the deterrence activity coordination amongst our NATO allies on a day-to-day basis to ensure that all of our NATO nations are postured for collective defense, but primarily that we are on a daily basis working together, interoperating on a daily basis throughout the Atlantic and in the Arctic.
What would you say are among the key challenges of being that bridge between the U.S. and European NATO allies?
The challenge I'd mentioned would be the advancement of our NATO allies and partners to continue to advance our interoperability, to be able to communicate together, to coordinate our combat system employment, and then our tactics, techniques, procedures at the tactical unit level, ships and ships, aircraft and aircraft, and bring those forces together to employ them at the higher level, at the operational level of war, but really in the deterrence phase in peacetime. That challenge has always been there, but with the pace of advancing challenges with Russia and China and others, it is even more essential that we work together to get after interoperability so we can work together. That's the principal challenge.
Now, of course, there is an alliance that's become more powerful, especially as Russia invaded Ukraine. But there are also current and upcoming challenges that perhaps go beyond NATO's traditional remit. You already mentioned China. How are the security challenges presented by China changing how NATO interacts with Russia?
So Russia's principal freedom of maneuver avenue, with its very capable maritime forces, largely unaffected by the war in Ukraine, they reside in the Kola Peninsula, so in what we would call the high north. And they access the globe, they maneuver around the globe through the Arctic. And they have demonstrated a strong desire and intent to not abide by what we would call the rules of law. They've invaded a sovereign nation. And with that act, really starting with the annexation of Crimea and then the invasion of Ukraine in 22, we see that they're strengthening relationship with China with concern. In fact, this illegal war in Ukraine, China is involved with assisting with providing weapons components, as is Iran and North Korea. To source, to fuel, to resource Russia's war. So we view those behaviors, the strengthening alliance, with concern as the climate change results in more access into the Arctic and some stated goals between Russia and China to pursue closer relationships and access through the Arctic. And now, why is that? Is because of Russia's behavior in the Arctic. Stated claims that they have certain rights to access to sea routes. Our job at JFC Norfolk is to preserve security, maintain low tension, and ensure safety and security throughout the Arctic, and especially to enable equitable access throughout the Arctic by the Arctic nations. All of those 8 Arctic nations have an equitable, right to access throughout the Arctic. And we see that the growing partnership between China and Russia as somewhat a could be a challenge as more and more traffic and more search for resources, whether that's oil, gas, or rare earth minerals, as well as protein, fish stocks that with climate change are going to move around more into the Arctic as waters warm.
Because you talked about the Arctic, I also wanted to bring up remarks from Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. He did say that the Arctic does need more presence, that it's possible that Russian missile attacks will not happen over the Atlantic but the Arctic Sea. This goes a bit to what you were saying. How should NATO be prepared for potential missile attack?
I won't address any particular scenarios. What I will mention is worthy of mentioning is how do we prepare? So in peacetime, we being the allied nations, conduct vigilance activities throughout the different Joint Force Command regions. Recently, we conducted the largest NATO exercise since 1988, Steadfast Defender. And through the course of 2 months of my first phase of the operation, JFC Norfolk conducted the operation for the first time commanding operational forces in the Atlantic and the high north. We had command of essentially 20,000 sailors, soldiers, airmen, Marines. We deployed several ships from the United States, from Canada, across the Atlantic to Norway, conducted an ASW, anti-submarine warfare exercise, principally led by a national exercise by the UK. And then moved on to Nordic response led exercise, a national exercise by Norway, which essentially the scenario is defense of Norway. And we use that to springboard into exercising our ability to conduct deterrence activities, move into a crisis response, and then a simulated combat scenario. So we've demonstrated the ability to counter adversaries, and by doing that during peacetime, we show our commitment to collective defense for the whole alliance.
You've already pointed out that the security challenges have gone global. In the next 75 years of the alliance, do you see NATO becoming more than a transatlantic alliance? Will it have to expand its remit in order to meet these global security challenges?
From the standpoint of like-minded nations that have militaries that want to safeguard maritime security, in so much as that preserves free commerce and essentially global prosperity that we've enjoyed since World War II, we are certain that we are on the right side of history and that other free nations will join us. And NATO, after 75 years of demonstrated collective security, is just a fantastic example. And I think world events are demonstrating that NATO is stronger and growing stronger every day.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.